In 1/4 mile, turn right onto OH 49 South.
All right, I've started recording.
Well, we're going to wait a few moments. I believe right at the moment we only have
OH 49 South now.
other than the directions,
OH 49.
I believe we only have the only board members we have currently are David Steck and myself.
Mike, I'm on also, Mike Brown.
Okay, good to know, Mike. I didn't see, you must be one of the telephone numbers without a name.
There you go.
Great. What's the last 2 digits of your phone number, Mike?
9741.
9741?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'll mute and unmute as needed be.
Okay.
And do you see me on here, Jeff Miller?
We don't see you, but we see that you're on.
Okay, and you can hear me. Okay, I've never done this, so.
Yes, we can hear you fine, and we've never done it either, so don't feel bad.
Okay, and I'll see if I can figure out how to do the pictures.
You have to have a camera, I think, on your computer.
Tax dollars at waste. Oh, wait a few minutes. I'd almost guarantee you Mark was throwing a fit because they wouldn't have it. And then he finally tried this. Huh? I said you're on mute, right? Yeah.
Charlie, is that you?
Yeah.
Hey, I just saw your name. I didn't recognize the face with your hand in front of it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me, Dave. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm a first timer at this too, so
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
I got a whopping 2 under my belt, so it is an interesting process.
Michael, are you ready to start, or do you want to wait still?
Well, let me ask this. Is David Saylor or Brad Warville with us yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, and you had indications that both of them would be joining us, correct?
Correct.
All right. Then I'd like to wait just another minute or two. The very first case we have up is a continuation.
Right.
And this is David Steck's first meeting. Am I correct, David?
Yes,
Yeah, and you haven't even sat in on one before, I don't believe, have you?
I have not.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we have a real sense of fairness about this. Technically, we do have a quorum with 3 of us here. but I'd like to wait another few minutes. This is an unusual circumstance, and being a few minutes late is not going to be our biggest problem, I don't think.
Right. We do have a quorum, but David Steck would not be able to participate in the first case because he was not present for the.
Correct. I mean, I can change the order,
Okay.
but I'd like to wait a few moments to give David Saylor and Brad Warble an opportunity to join us.
Okay.
I know this is a new process for an awful lot of people. It can be a little frustrating. I've been very lucky in that or not, depending upon your perspective. I've probably done 50 of these in the last few months. So I've sort of gotten used to it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Kate, has David been sworn in?
No, he has not. And I need to find that swearing in information. I forgot about that.
I don't know if I have that in front of me, but do you have the copy of that?
Yes, I can.
So I'm going to allow you to read that
Okay.
when the time comes, okay?
Okay.
We're going to give it 2 more minutes.
Hey, David Steck,
Yes, sir.
let me ask you a question while we're waiting.
Okay.
We're in the process of thinking about postponing our class reunion in September. What's your opinion? Keep it or postpone it?
Is it outside or is it inside?
It's inside at the Carillon Brewery. They have a banquet room there.
Okay.
Our guesstimate is 50 to 60 people will probably show up.
Yeah. I wish we could look into the crystal ball like everyone else and see what's in store, but I don't know if that's a good idea. What's other people think?
Well, most of the committee want to postpone it.
Okay. Well, I would think that would be a good idea.
Okay, I'll turn your vote in as that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Michael,
Yes.
David Saylor is on his cell phone, but he can hear us, but we cannot hear him. So
Oh,
is there
I see.
something he needs to do? Or
Could you say that
Jason,
again?
is there something he needs to do so we can hear him?
Jason?
Yeah, hold on one sec.
I'm awful glad you're here, Jason.
Yeah. Mr. Saylor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go. Now we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. can hear you.
Yes.
Well, I couldn't get Michael to hush, but that's normal. Jason, I thank you for getting in there and straightening things up.
Not a problem. Happy to help.
Okay. It's 7:10. We do have a quorum here, and since David has joined us, I'd like to begin. So if we could, I'll call the meeting. Jason, we're recording, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, Kate?
Brown,
Here.
London,
Here.
Baylor,
Here.
Steck,
Here.
Warble.
Here.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. It's good to have you all here. If we could we have a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
the
flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic.
for which it
It
stands,
stands
one nation, under God,
Indivisible.
liberty and
with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Normally at this time, we would be swearing in witnesses. So, Jason, what I'd like to be able to do, to be fair to everyone, is if you could check to make sure that everyone is able to hear.
Yeah, everybody should be good.
Okay. So at this time, what I'd like to do is to have each of you repeat after me. Let's do it this way. We're not going to do that. I'm going to give you the affirmation and have you answer I do. This could be tricky. Those of you who are planning this evening to provide any testimony or witness, if you would, do you sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony that you are about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury? If so, answer I do, one at a time, and just state your name and I do.
Charlie
Jeff
Hypes.
Miller, I do.
Charlie Hypes, I do.
Jesse Denlinger, do. I do too.
Brian Lamb, I do.
Cynthia Lamb, I do.
Is there anyone else?
Who was the first person? I didn't catch that.
Jeff Miller.
Okay, Jeff Miller. Thank you.
Do you have it all, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. If you could then, before we begin the first case, I would like to have our newest board member to be sworn in, and that is David Stack. Kate, if you could read the text, please.
David, just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Steck,
Do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution, laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of the Township of Perry,
and the laws of the Township of Perry,
and I will discharge the duties of the Township Board of Zoning Appeals
and I will discharge the duties, what was the rest?
of the Township Board of Zoning Appeal,
What you said,
to which I have been appointed,
to which I have been appointed
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
So the first case that we have before us this evening is BZA case number 2019-006. And this is a continuation from our previous meetings. The nature of this particular appeal was a reduction of road frontage. 30 feet has been requested and 300 feet has been required. At our last meeting, the board chose to table this until such time as we could get some input on any potential legal terminology that we should or shouldn't be using in a motion. I believe do all of the board members, have you received a copy of the notification from Nathaniel Peterson, whom I'm assuming is a prosecuting attorney, Kate?
That's correct. The Township Attorney.
Okay.
Yes, I received it.
Yeah, Brad
Yes, I
received it.
Since we have two Davids on here now, just call me Sailor and let it go at that.
Brown received it.
Heck, I'm used to it.
Okay. So I'm not going to open this back up at this time for the public. I would like to go through each of the board members and ask what your thoughts are at this time, since that's where we left it. Sailor, what are your thoughts?
That's the one on Crawford Tom's Run that they widened it to, I believe, 82 feet, something like that.
Yes.
I would agree with it. The only thing is, we still have that cemetery access back there.
Yes. So it appears that the and Kate, please, well, let me do this. Kate, would you like to report any other information that you have on this?
I don't have any other information other than what I sent you from Nathaniel.
Okay, and what Nathaniel sent us, just to recap, would be that it is not necessary for the board to put any specific language as far as the deed goes. We are simply to provide any instructions to the property owner. If we are approving this, we are to approve this and provide for them information that they need to take into consideration as they have a deed created.
As long as they provide access, we'd be all right.
So if we, yeah, all right. So David, if that is in the motion that is we approve, that's what you're comfortable with.
I think so.
All right.
I think if we stipulate that, I believe we would be all right. We're not having anything to do with the deed. We can't do the deed, but
right.
You know, they have to stipulate that people would have access if they wanted to visit back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike Brown,
Yes, sir.
what are your
I
thoughts?
concur with I concur with Mr. Saylor. I agree. After all the discussions, now that we have the documentation on what we should be going forward with, I'm fine.
All right. So you also would feel like we just put the stipulation in the motion that the access be available to the public? To
That
the
is
cemetery.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. Brad Warble?
Yeah, a couple things. The cemetery back there is a private cemetery. It's not a public cemetery. And there's an additional 40 acres of farmland needs to be accessible. So I think that should be mentioned in the amendment.
Brad, just so that I make sure, because I know we've got a little bit of static on the line. There's an additional 40 acres that, in fact, you say needs to also be stipulated to have access?
Correct.
And that access should be to the owner of that property?
Correct. Which is Dean Brun owns that. And the cemetery is private cemetery. It's not a public cemetery.
So the cemetery access, though, I mean, since you bring that point up, Brad, the cemetery access, we should be stipulating whether or not we are suggesting access for whom, whether it's a limited people or just for public.
Well, I guess it could be, I guess it could be for public. It's not a public cemetery, but I don't have any problem with anybody going back there.
Okay.
Whatever makes most sense.
Okay. Anything else, Brad?
No, I agree with what Dave and Mike both said.
Great, thank you. David Steck, what are your thoughts?
Well, from what I read and saw, I have no problem with it. I missed out on a lot of stuff, and I don't know how valuable my opinion is on this one.
So, David Steck, on this motion, it would be my recommendation for you to abstain then.
That would be fine. Then I will abstain.
All right. Did anybody have a motion on this from the board that you want to make, or would you like me to draft something?
You do it.
Thanks, David.
You can do it, Michael. Same with me, Mike Brown.
Okay.
Entertain a motion, Michael.
I'm getting ready to. Looking at my notes. Trying to find my copy of the application. Hang on one second here. Okay, and this is for, let me make sure I got my notes right. This is for 06. Sorry, I've got so many papers shoveled all over the place here. I don't want to make sure that I refer to the wrong one. Kate, if you could do me a favor, I'm going to read to you from what the piece that I do have. I do not have the original one in front of me. I've got so many papers. I thought it was here and I was wrong. So can you tell me, is it the nature of the appeal for BZA 2019-006? Can you tell me, is the nature of the appeal reduction of road frontage 82.23 as requested? Is that correct?
I show it as reduction of road frontage 30 feet is requested, 300 feet is required.
No, I don't think that's correct. I think they came back with a new revised 80-foot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking.
82.
Yeah, what, David? Go ahead, David Saylor.
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead. You're close. It's 82 foot something that they came back with.
I had 82.23.
That was what it was.
Okay. So
The
is there
original
anything else in this other than that particular variance?
Not that I know of, as long as they, like I say, have access to that property back
Sure.
there in that cemetery whenever. Being private, it won't be visited very often.
Yeah.
But people need the access to it. And other than that, we
Okay.
really hashed that one over.
Okay. So all right, let me try one here then. So I'll entertain and I'm sorry, Kate, please let me know if you need me to go slower or repeat in order to get
Okay.
this, all right?
All right.
So I'm going to entertain a motion in case number BZA 2019-006 to grant a reduction of road frontage to 82.23 as requested for this property at 2639 Crawford Toms Run Road, Brookville, Ohio, 45309. With the following stipulations. 1, the owners must assure that there is access to the existing cemetery for the public. 2, that there is access to the adjacent 40 acres for the owner of that property. Kate, tell me when you have that.
I have it.
All right. The only thing that I would also suggest that be added on to that because of the 40 acres, and that is we have an understanding as a board that we will include the parcel numbers in this motion, which I do not have in front of me. For the 40 acres, that is. So if you could, when you're ready, Kate, if you could read that back for the board.
Okay. Michael London entertained a motion in case BZA 2019-006 to grant a reduction of road frontage 82.23 feet as requested for this property, 2639 Crawford Toms Run Road, Brookville, Ohio, 45309, with the following stipulations. Number one, owners must assure that there is access to the existing cemetery to the public. Number two, that there is access to the adjacent 40 acres for the owner of that property. We have an understanding as the board to include the parcel numbers for the 40 acres.
So because we're on Zoom, in order to keep it simpler, I would like to ask, is there a motion to that effect, David Saylor?
Yes, I'd make that a motion as it is read by Kate.
Thank you. Is there a second to that, Mike Brown?
Yes, I will second it.
Did you get that, Kate?
Yes,
Before we call for a vote, and this is a procedural question that I don't remember, David, you might. We sometimes have done the variances prior to the motion and sometimes after.
You could do it either way in this case, I think. It wouldn't
Yeah.
make much difference.
Well, before we vote, then I'm going to go ahead and have us go through the variance. Does every board member have a copy of the variance in front of them? The variance questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go through those and I'll read this for the variance. In BZA case 2019-006, the board shall not grant a variance in each specific case until it has met a finding of fact directly based on the evidence presented in each of the following questions. All questions must be answered true by a majority of the board members present for the variance to be approved. I'm going to read these questions, and if we could go in this order: Mike Brown, David Saylor, David Steck, and then Brad Warble in terms of answering on these, so that since it's a recording and we, in some cases, don't have video on everybody. Question number one: the variance requested arises from special conditions of or involving the property which are unique and not ordinarily found in this zoning district. Mike Brown?
True.
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 And David Stack? Did I lose David Stack?
I said true. Did you hear me?
I'm sorry, didn't hear you. Thank you. Brad Warble?
True.
Thank you. The situation is a result of the enforcement of this zoning resolution and not by any action of the property owner or applicant. Mike Brown?
True.
David Saylor?
True.
David Stack?
True.
Brad Warble?
True.
It will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and morals. Mike Brown?
True.
David Saylor?
True.
David Stack?
True.
Brad Warble?
True.
It will not compromise the general spirit and intent of this zoning resolution. Mike Brown?
True.
David Saylor?
True.
David Stack?
True.
Brad Warble?
True.
It will not compromise the use or enjoyment of adjacent properties. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
It will not affect adjoining agricultural land or farm drainage systems. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
Evidence has been shown that this zoning resolution is not practical in this case. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
And that completes we don't leave the last one on that. That completes those questions. I will now call for the vote on this. Would anybody like to have it read again? If so, we will. there not being a request for another reading of it, I'd like to call for the vote. If we could, Mike Brown,
4.
yeah, you could just do a yay or nay, yes, no.
Yay.
Mike Brown, yes. David Saylor,
Yay.
David
Yes.
Steck,
Yes.
Brad Warble,
Yes.
and Kate, you'll list mine as an abstention. And that motion carries. So we'd like to say to any parties that may be attending on this virtual meeting that we're having, that if you would follow up with the zoning administrator and for any of the compliance. Is there anything that anybody wants to add on this before we move on?
Yeah, I do.
And who's speaking?
This is Dean Brown.
Dean?
I want to thank you guys for the cooperation, and we will take it back to Steve and get your request on the deed.
I appreciate that. All right. If there's nothing else, then we're going to move on to the next case. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right. The next case on our agenda sorry, I'm pulling my records up. A BZA case 2020-001. By the way, Kate, as I'm going through this, if I do something stupid and like read the wrong thing, stop me, will you?
Okay, let me stop you.
That was awfully quick.
I'm not sure, but on this case, we just approved the conditional use questions are for lot split, so I don't know if those needed to be answered true or not.
Yes, they do. I'm sorry. Thank you. I had that piece of paper buried. So board members,
Yeah.
we will go back on that. So on the conditional use, if we can do the same thing, I'm sorry about that. I had that paper buried under something else. So Kate, if you'll note for the record that we're now doing that after the vote, okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry, gentlemen. BZA case number 2019006, conditional use. The board shall not grant a conditional use in each specific case until it has made a finding of fact based on the evidence presented in each case of the following questions. All questions must be answered true by a majority of the board members present for the conditional use to be approved. Question number 1. Conditional use requested will comply with all applicable regulations of this zoning resolution, including the lot size, development standard, and use limits. Mike Brown?
True.
David Saylor?
True.
David Stack?
Yes. True.
And Brad Warble?
True.
Question number 2, adequate access roads or entrance and exit drives will be provided and will be so designed as to prevent traffic hazards and to minimize congestion in public streets. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
It will not adversely compromise the adjoining agricultural land and will not affect the farmland's drainage systems. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
It will be in harmony with the orderly development of the district in which it is located with respect to the nature and intensity of the operation. Brown?
True.
Saylor?
True.
Stack?
True.
Warble?
True.
It will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and morals. Brown,
True.
Sailor,
True.
Steck,
True.
Warble.
True.
Adequate utilities and drainage have been or will be provided. Brown,
True.
Sailor,
True.
Steck,
True.
Warble.
True.
I believe, did I miss one? No,
Okay.
I think that's all of them. Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next case, if I don't mess something else up.
Either the location or the name of the applicant, please, Mike.
Okay. I'll give it all then, David.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So then this next case that we have before the board is BZA case 2020001. The owners are Mark and Sherilyn Miller, I believe trustees. The address is 11109 Old Dayton Road, New Lebanon, Ohio 45345. The property is located on the north side of Old Dayton and east of Clayton Road. The parcel number is L5302-902-0010. It is 10.02 acres, and the property is in an agricultural district. The nature of this appeal is a lot split of 2.272 acres, including an existing home from a parcel L53-02902-0010, which is 10.02 acres in total. The remaining parcel would then be 7.748 acres of agricultural land with a road frontage of 23.63. The 2.272 acres will have a depth of 440 feet. Per Article 7, Section 703A, the minimum road frontage required of the Perry Township zoning regulation and the maximum depth may not exceed 400 in depth from the road right away. I believe, David Saylor, isn't the minimum road frontage 300?
Yes, it is on that 7 acres.
Okay, so all right. I just wanted to check that. So, so let me ask before I ask the next question, is there any board member or Kate is there any piece of information that I didn't read that you'd like read? If not, then I'm going to go ahead and open this part of the meeting up to the public and ask if there is anyone who was sworn in who would like to speak in favor of this application.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Miller.
Yes,
And
Jeff.
okay, I'm in favor of it. My son would like to buy the property that's in the front. And the way that it would be affordable is if we could divide that 2 acre part out. So that's the reason for it.
Okay. Is there Anything else, Jeff, that you wanted to mention?
I can't think of anything. If there's any questions, I did put some stakes out there. I looked into it and I've talked to the surveyors. If you have any questions, I may know the answer.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this motion? Okay. So I'm not hearing anyone else. Jason, am I okay on that to make an assumption that nobody else is indicating?
That would be correct.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak against this motion, this appeal?
Michael, this is Kate. We got a call yesterday from a resident and he just called to state he is opposed to the lot split, but he did not give a reason why. We tried to call him back to ask why, but we didn't have his phone number.
So he left a message?
No, we talked to him. Karen talked to him and he just said he was calling to say he was opposed to the lot split. And we didn't think to ask him why, and so we thought we should call him back and ask him why, but we didn't have his number to call him back.
So did you, Karen, good to meet you. Did you have a name?
Yes, we have the name, but I don't know that.
But we weren't able to locate a phone number.
Okay.
All he said to me was that he doesn't know how to do Zoom and all that, but he
Sure.
wanted the you guys to know that he was opposed to this.
But we don't know why.
No.
All right. So then I'd like to, is there anybody else who would like to speak against this motion?
Charlie Hypes, can you hear me?
Yes, Charlie.
All right, I used to live next door at 11151 Old Dayton Road for 24 years, so I'm familiar with the property. I basically have a question more than opposing it. When I talked to Tara back in 2011 to sell my other house, or sell that house at 11151 Old Dayton Road, an interested party only wanted a few acres in the house, let's say approximately 3 acres. What she told me was I could not do that because there would not be enough road frontage left. If you happen to have one of these plot plans in front of you, the lot was 427 feet wide approximately, which would have left 127 feet for the balance. Now, she didn't mention anything about getting a variance or anything like that. She just said I couldn't do it. So apparently you can get a variance for this 23 feet now. Is that what you're stating?
No, I'm not stating that.
Well, Jeff wants to get a variance, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, that's my intent, I hope.
Right.
So when you're trying to say, Charlie, that when you spoke to the zoning administrator, you were told that you could not appeal for a variance. Is that correct?
Well, she really didn't say any other reasons other than I could not do it. She didn't expound on anything else. So I just left it at that unless I would have added that property into my 24 acres or took some of the 24 acres and added it to that remaining 11.77 acres, let's say. That was how I was left with it. So that was how I understood it. Whether that was right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what she told me. So I kind of missed out a sale there. I would have liked to have kept some of the acreage myself, but it didn't work out. You know, I know Mark did a lot of things on the farm. I hate to see some of these small farms, you know, just dismantled, you know. There's a lot of trees he's taken down, the barn. The house does not look like it did, you know, 25 years ago when I moved out there, but that's here or there. But I just hate to see it split off. And my other question is, for an effective future resale with that 7 acres having 23 feet of road frontage, you know, what kind of problems does that present in the future? I mean, you really can't even get some of this big equipment on 23 feet if he had to drive in there, you know, nowadays.
Yeah.
I know Mark will farm it with the rest of his ground there. That's not really an issue now, but I just hate to see it split off. You know, I know Jeff and the family. I hate to be a doomsdayer here, but my opinion is I don't really like it.
You mean the idea of a split?
Yes, I'd rather see it not split. I understand his reasoning. That would make the property more affordable for his son.
Okay. Is there anything else, Charlie?
No, I guess that's my only question at this time in my statement. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this motion, this appeal? Okay, hearing none. And Jason, am I safe to assume there are none?
It looks that way.
All right, thank you. So I would like to entertain a motion to close the public portion of this meeting.
David Saylor will make that motion.
Is there a second to it?
Brown will second it.
Okay, and then without objection, so ordered. So we're open the, this is just for the board members now. I'd just like to sort of go through and get your thoughts. If you don't mind, Brad Warble, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Mike, I think I'm going to abstain because Jeff Miller's company and my company do business together, so I'd like to stay out of this discussion.
All right. Mike Brown, do you have any thoughts at this time? Mike, are you with me?
Oh, I'm here, Michael.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts at this time?
I'm just concerned with the amount of frontage that's being left there. I will say that's a concern of mine. Other than that, I don't have a concern about anything other than that.
Is your is your concern the 2.72, or I mean the what is the road frontage? 23, I think.
23.63.
Okay.
It's just it's not even close to our required 300.
No, it's not close. Okay.
So that. Yeah.
Did you have any questions for anybody, Mike?
No, sir. I'm good.
David Saylor.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yes, I do. If you take the whole 10 acres before without any lot splits, it still doesn't have or meet the footage requirements for road frontage. When you split off down to the 7 acres, in talking about 23 foot, something like it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
300 foot is a requirement. Nowhere in the zoning text does it allow us to make any exception other down below 50 foot. So consequently, it does not meet any of those requirements. By the same token, the 2 acres is 40 feet deeper than what is stipulated in the zoning text. Therefore, you probably have my answer on the whole thing.
I appreciate that. David Saylor, do you have any questions of anybody at this time?
No, because I've been out there 2 different times and looked at it, and I don't see, to widen the frontage, then you're not going to have enough footage for the 2 acre split. Consequently, it's going to about have to remain as is.
Okay. David Stack, I'm sorry, David Saylor, was there anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
David Stack, what are your thoughts?
First of all, a little clarification. I was out yesterday and looked at it. Is that the log house, a little log house? Is that the house that we're talking about?
If you could speak just a little louder.
Is that the little log house that we're speaking about with the railroad crossroad on it?
Kate?
No. No.
No.
Wrong property.
Then I was looking at the wrong place, because I'm looking at the map I was given, the survey, and I guess I'm not real sure which one it is. And there's TG on the corner, correct? Doesn't TG have some land there on the corner of Old Dayton and Clayton?
That's correct.
Yeah, I believe he does, but.
Okay.
You got to go over.
This is to the east of that area, correct? And before you get to Charlie's old house, and I was seeing a cornfield there, kind of narrow. I guess I'm not real sure which place it is in, which that's
Okay.
not real helpful. But in terms of looking at the specifications needed, I guess one question was, if it's 40 feet too much in depth, why could that 40 feet not be cut back to the required 400?
Well, I don't know that. I would hesitate to answer that. However, I would say that's not what they're requesting.
Okay.
Do you understand, David? That it may or may not be, but that is not what they're requesting.
Right, but I'm looking at the survey.
Yes.
And the number picked was 40 foot too deep. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was there a reason for that? I guess I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I don't know if anyone has an answer to that. Is there anyone on the board with an answer to that?
Well, even if you cut the 40 feet off, you still don't have enough frontage to make the split.
Right, I understand that. But you had 2 things going on, the frontage and the depth.
Yes.
It seemed like cutting 40 feet off solves a problem on the depth, but then you still have the frontage issue. And 23 feet seems to me not even close to the zoning requirements.
Okay. Any other thoughts right now, David Stack?
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the place in general, that area though, and I visually don't see an issue with it in many ways. The 23 feet lets people get into that field okay. And I understand what Jeff's trying to accomplish, and I appreciate that too. So anyway, I guess that's where I am on it. So I think that'll work. Like to hear from someone else.
Okay. Well, I believe that, let me ask this, is there any board member who'd like to speak again? You're certainly welcome to. If not, I want to share with you sort of a thought here on the process. And that is that it is generally my practice to entertain and help to develop a motion when it seems to be clear that there is a consensus with the board. When there is not, I will tend not to entertain a motion either for or against, and I will leave it to the board. So if in fact there is no motion to approve this appeal, if there is no motion to approve it, the appeal is rejected. Is that understood?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'm just being honest and upfront here. I want to be able to be transparent and clear. I don't hear a strong consensus of the majority of the board on this one. And unless I did, I'm not going to entertain a motion. So if somebody would, if there's a board member who would like to make a motion, you're welcome to do that. Either a motion to approve or a motion to deny, either one.
I will make the motion.
David, go ahead.
If that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
by all means. Kate, can you make?
I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I've lost it somewhere for the. Anyway, if you can come up with the numbers on that, on the hearing, I think, no, that's the wrong one.
Are you,
I've
which
got
numbers you
22.
after, David?
I want the numbers for the property on Old Dayton Road there.
The number for the property in question is 11109 Old Dayton Road.
Right, I've got that, but I don't have the.
BZA case 2020-001.
2001.
001.
Okay. Pardon?
001. You're good.
Okay. I'll make a motion on that property. Since neither one of that split meets any of the requirements of the zoning text, with the road frontage already is on the light side for that total 10 acres. Therefore, to split it off, I will make a motion not to allow the split.
So there is a motion on the floor made by David Saylor not to allow this appeal to be approved. Is that correct, David?
That's right. I appreciate your input on that.
It's okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it, Mike Brown.
Mike Brown seconds the motion. There is a motion on the floor, and so I would like to call for the question on this and call for the vote. If you're in favor, signify by saying yay or yes. If you're opposed, nay or no. Mike Brown.
Yes.
David Saylor.
Yes.
David Steck.
Yes.
Brad Warble.
Abstain.
And Mike London, myself, I will also abstain. The motion is denied. The motion is approved and the appeal is denied.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, David, you wanted to say something?
No, you just said that wrong, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I did mess it up, but I do that now and then. So that motion was approved and the appeal has been denied. So if we could, if Kate and Karen, if you could make sure to follow up with the Millers, the appellants in this particular case. Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
All right. I appreciate everybody's perspective and I appreciate your patience through this process. If there's nothing else on that, then I'd like to move us to the next case in front of the board. Are we ready or does anybody need a break?
We're fine.
I'm ready.
Ready?
We're ready.
Okay. And the Davids, ready?
Yes.
Thank you. The next case that we will be hearing is case number BZA 2020002. The owners are Brian R. and Cynthia L. Lamb. The address is 4111 Crawford Toms Run Road, Brookville, Ohio 45309. The property is located on the west side of Crawford Toms Run Road, 1,340 feet south of the intersection of Providence Pike. Parcel number is L55-02708-0020, and it is 20.351 acres. This property is in an agricultural district. The nature of the appeal is the placement of a new pole barn in front of the house. So on this, I would like to have anyone who is attending, not on the board, who would like to speak in favor of this appeal.
Yes, my name's Brian Lamb. If I could speak, the property owner here.
Yes, Brian Lamb.
First of all, yes.
Yes, go right
First of all,
ahead.
Thank you for your time and listening to the appeal. We put this in because the pole barn, the way the topographic is of the property, it rolls back really steep to the creek back there behind the house. So if we went to the rear property line of the current structure and placed the pole barn, then it would come down into where the swell of the property drains. Then there's also a pond back there at the overflow that comes off of a neighboring farm over there. It feeds into that. That comes off if the drainage pipe can't get cleared to the creek. And so we've had several times, we've only lived here a year, but we've had several times where that creek is backed up in that lower field and stand there for, sometimes a day or longer. So trying to make sure that we didn't get down in there to where we had it, blocking up the drainage area of the whole property, particularly the farm field here in the front, and then also to serve as a dam or a water collection point for the overflow coming down there after the pond. So that was the reason that we had looked, we looked to the north, and up to that side of the property from the house is divided by a creek and some woods. So we would have to have an access off of the other road up there where the property goes up to Providence. Well, we're really not in, we don't really want to do that, but that would be the way to access it if we put a barn up there. But then also the security issue of it and the fact that we wouldn't be able to see that barn at all. We talked about the west side, which is where the property slopes, and the barn would end up in the drainage flow of the property the way it's designed. And then if we look at the south side of it, it would impede the drainage, as I said, of the farm field on the neighboring property. So that was the reason we had asked for a variance to where we could build that property. And it's not the way it's worded there, that would be in front of the house, because there would be several feet there. I think it's 7 feet or 6 feet and 11 inches. What it is, you'll see on the drawing there that Stephen drew. But so part of it would be in front of the house, and as the zoning calls for is that for additions or garages or barns and so on, that number 4 says the front of the new structure can be no closer to the roadway than the rear wall of the residence, and that's why we made the appeal, because we wanted to talk to you folks and try to do it the right way, and still not end up back there where we have something we really wouldn't be able to use. So the barn, the front, the leading edge of the barn would remain 155.2 feet from the road. So that's why we asked for the zoning appeal.
So just for clarification, you're speaking about the plot layout and variance sketch that was submitted by Stephen A. Pope and Associates?
Yes, sir.
And just for clarity's sake, you mentioned the front point of the proposed pole barn was to be 155.2 feet from the road frontage, as opposed to the 162.1 feet, which is the front of the home.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else in attendance who would like to speak in favor of this appeal?
Mr. London, this is Charlie Hypes again.
Hey, Charlie.
I had kind of the opposite situation when I built my house here. The house was behind the existing barn. Since I have since replaced that old barn with a new pole barn. I'm roughly familiar with his area. I know the creek issue there, so I can see why he's wanting to put the barn where it is. I have absolutely no problem with that barn being a small amount in front of his house whatsoever. It's only going to improve the property, and I'm sure he's going to put up a nice building. I love my new barn. It sure improved my property 200%. So I am totally in favor of him being able to put this barn up where he's proposing.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Jason, I'm assuming you're not getting any notions from anybody, right?
No, sir.
Thank you. In that case, is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak against this appeal? Okay, I'm not hearing anybody. Did I miss anything, Jason?
No, it's only the people owning the property, the board members, and Trustee Mears and Fiscal Officer Benkin and myself.
Okay. That being the case, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of this appeal. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll motion it. Mike Brown.
Mike Brown moves to close. Is there a second?
Warville seconds.
Brad Warville seconds, and so ordered, with no objection, so ordered. Okay, if we could, I'd like to, again, roll through and look at your thoughts on this. Brad, do you mind starting us off here if you have any?
Yeah, I from the description and the drainage and so forth, I don't really have a problem with that. It's an improvement to the property, and the variance there is pretty slight, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Brad. David Stack, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Yes. I do not have a problem with that 7 feet. I understand what they're doing and why. I think it will be a big improvement. Also, as I was driving south on the road, got down to Amity, and the house there that entered onto Amity Road has a barn which you know, is in essence the same type of situation. The barn is closer to Crawford Road, which would be the case for this, and it's not anything you can even notice. And that 7 feet is not going to be noticeable one way or the other, whether it was set back or not. And I also, Brian, you might consider, I just put in a barn here at my place about 6 years ago, and you might consider even raising the grade a little bit to help with it in case you get a bunch of rain. I don't think you would regret that.
Okay, we'll sure consider that, David. And the guy that was going to build the pad is who did the septic system here originally when they built the home for Keith Landis, and he did come out and look at it. He did make that same suggestion, so that'll be something I want to follow up with, David. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anything else, David Steck?
No, I'm good.
Thanks. David Saylor.
Yes, we had a closed session from the public. You need to remind David Steck of that. Anyway, yes, and all you guys, you've got a zoning text book. You need to live by it and read it. It is our Bible in the township. If you go to Article 38, first thing it stipulates is private garages, carports, a structure for storage, and etc. And it states, on I, the front of an accessory building shall not be closer to the front line than the rear of the main structure, home structure on the lot. You know, I think we can make exceptions, but I also think we don't need to throw the zoning text out the window either. It's written by 5 guys that worked diligent for a lot of years putting it together. And I think we've got about as good a zoning text anywhere in the country. And I've no objection to bending it, but I'm not going to break it. I was out there and looked at the property, and I think the barn could have been moved back a little bit, but that's my opinion. The rest of you, I'm willing to listen to you.
Okay. Anything else, David?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Mike Brown, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are I'm familiar with the property. I understand totally what the homeowner is going after, and I do think it'll be a nice addition to the property, and I can certainly understand and wanting to be in the view. I do understand what Mr. Saylor is saying also, and I agree that we need to adhere by what we're bound and to protect as far as the zoning commission has put forth in that book also. But I think that, in my personal opinion, with the property already present and understanding the situation, that in this particular situation, that I'm willing to understand the owner's need for moving it to where it's going to be.
Okay. So this is for all board members. Do any board members have anything they want to add at this time? If not, I am going to entertain a motion in this case. Kate, are you ready?
Yes.
And Michael,
Yes, go ahead, David.
what was the size of that barn?
Let me see if I can find it.
40 by 56. I just found it.
You beat me to it.
With a 10 by 40 foot covered porch. So that's a 50. Okay. I want to know the size. That's a pretty big building.
Yeah, it is.
You won't see the house until if you're going north. I can tell you that till you get past it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I will entertain a motion on this appeal. So Kate, if you're ready.
Ready.
In case number BZA 2020002, I'm entertaining a motion in this case to approve the appeal as requested, which is a placement of the new pole barn as delineated on the map submitted.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry?
You're going too fast.
Oh, well, nothing new there, huh?
As requested, which is delineated
On the property plot variance sketch submitted with the appeal and drafted by Stephen A. Pope, April 28, 2020.
Okay.
And that's because of the to be honest with you, because of the detail on the map, I'm not going to go any further on the motion. Could you read that again, just so everyone can be clear?
Yes, Michael London entertained a motion on case BZA 2020-002 to approve the appeal as requested, which is delineated on the property plot variant sketch with the appeal and drafted by Stephen Pope, April 2020.
So that being the case, is there anyone who'd like to make that motion and move it forward? Technically, we don't have a motion on the floor until somebody makes that motion. I can only entertain it.
I'll make that motion as read. This is Brad Warble.
So the motion's been made by Mr. Warble. Is there a second to that motion?
This is David Stack. I will second that.
Seconded by David Steck. Thank you. So before we vote on this, I'm going to go ahead and have us read the variance and conditional use statements that we need to do. Ready, Kate?
Okay.
All right. Questions for BZA members in order to meet the standards for a variance is set forth in 405.05 BZA case number 2020002. The board shall not grant a variance in each specific case until it has made a finding of fact directly based upon the evidence presented in each of the following questions. All questions must be answered true by a majority of the board members present for the variance to be able to be approved. Number one, the variance requested arises from special conditions of or involving the property which are unique and not ordinarily found in this zoning district. Brown.
True.
Saylor.
Leave me to last.
Steck.
Leave me to last.
David Steck.
True.
Brad Warble.
True.
David Saylor.
I'll go along with them temporarily.
Number two, the situation is a result of the enforcement of this zoning resolution and not by any action of the property owner or applicant. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Steck,
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
That's true.
It
That's
will
true.
not adversely affect the public health, safety, and morals. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Steck,
True.
Mr. Saylor,
True.
Mr. Brown.
True.
It will not compromise the general spirit and intent of this zoning resolution. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Steck,
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
True.
It will not compromise the use or enjoyment of adjacent properties. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Stack,
True.
Mr. Saylor,
I'm going to say false.
on the enjoyment of adjacent properties.
Well, it's going to block the view
Okay.
from the south.
All right.
I'm going to
And
leave it like my
all right.
opinion.
That's all right. Mr. Brown.
True.
The next one is, it will not affect the adjoining agricultural land or farmland drainage systems. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Stack,
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
True.
And lastly, on this one, evidence has been shown that this zoning resolution is not practical in this case. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Stack,
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
No.
All right. Since this is a variance, strict application of this zoning resolution will constitute unnecessary hardship and restriction upon the property owner or applicant. Mr. Warble,
True.
Mr. Stack,
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
I guess that'd have to be true.
All right, and Kate, if you'll just make a note, the majority of the board, these must be answered true by a majority of the board members present for the variance to be approved. That was, and we will now do the conditional use. Or is that, wait a minute, is that necessary?
Not a lot split.
No.
The additional questions for other than lot split.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you, thank you, Kate. Keep on me. All necessary, I'm sorry. This is questions for conditional use, questions for BZA members in order to meet the standards for conditional use as set forth in 406.05. A BZA case number 2020002, the board shall not grant a conditional use in each specific case until it has made a finding of fact based upon the evidence presented in each of the following questions. All questions must be answered true by a majority of the board members present for the conditional use to be approved. All necessary permits and license for use and operation have been obtained or evidence has been submitted that such permits are obtainable. Mr. Warble.
True.
Mr. Steck.
True.
Mr. Brown.
True.
Mr. Saylor.
True.
All exterior lighting will be so shaded as to avoid casting direct light upon any property, residence, or street. Mr. Warble.
True.
Mr. Stack.
True.
Mr. Brown.
True.
Mr. Saylor.
True.
All structures, walls, fences, landscaping, and other screening on site is so designed that it will not hinder or discourage other development, use, and enjoyment of adjacent land or structures. Mr. Warble.
True.
Mr. Stack.
True.
Mr. Brown,
True.
Mr. Saylor.
True.
Kate, if you will make note of that.
Will do.
We have that, so I'm going to, if we can, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye or yes. Those opposed, no or nay. Mr. Warble,
Yes.
Mr. Steck,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Saylor.
I'll vote yes only because the other guys want it that way.
And Mr. London abstains. So the appeal is granted. So if Mr. and Mrs. Lamb, who are the appellants, would make sure to get with the zoning administrator following this meeting, and the zoning administrator will provide the documentation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're very welcome. So at this point, is there anything else in the public portion of this meeting? If not, I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting.
Don't close it.
I'm sorry?
You don't close it. You've got another packet in here.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry, David. Thank you. Hang on one second. I'm trying to keep track of myself.
It's all right. It's the one on Westbrook Road.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so Kate, I'm going to go to you first. If you could give me some background on this.
Okay, the property owner originally wanted to build a barn, but when I told them it had to be behind the house, they said they didn't have room behind the house. And then
Could you just be a little bit louder? Just a little louder, everybody.
okay, the property owner originally wanted to put a barn up at 9800 Westbrook Road, and I stated it had to be behind the house, and they told me they didn't have room to put it behind the house. I believe the Morton Building salesperson told me that. And so then the property owners decided to put up a carport, and I approved it based on the information I was given, and they put up the carport, and then it was brought to my attention that it didn't meet the definition of a carport, and it's not a carport. And so that's where we're at.
Okay. So on this case, since this is not something that's come before the board before, I'm going to ask if we have the record in front of us. Is there any action or comments that any board member would like to discuss at this time?
This is Kate, I'd like to say one thing. I have not reached out to the property owners to let them know that there could be a problem with this, and they were not advised of this discussion.
Okay, that's good information. So there's nobody from the public that would be speaking on behalf of this in any direction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Clarity is important. So, so let me just go through. Do we have board members who have thoughts on this?
Yes.
Well, David, and Mike Brown also.
Okay.
But David can go ahead. David, well, my thing is I think that these people misrepresented the building that they were going to build to Kate, and went ahead and did what they originally were told that they weren't allowed to do. And this is where I totally agree with David Saylor that if they would have been honest and upfront with us from the beginning, I think that, you'd at least it could have gone through the discussion process, but they went ahead and did what they originally wanted to do with kind of misrepresenting it. And that is where I have a chaff with it myself.
Okay. Thank you.
When you go
David
by and
Saylor?
look at it,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
No,
when
you're
you go
fine.
by, I mean, when you go by it and you would look at it, it looks like a Morton building that the door is up on, and it doesn't. I don't know what the criteria for our carport is, but if that's a carport, it's a really nice carport.
Kate,
It's
I'm
a
sorry.
carport on steroids.
Yeah. Kate, you don't have a regulation in front of you with any description of a carport, do you, at this
There
point?
is a definition in the zoning text of a carport, which I found after the fact. And
Could you say that a little louder? I want to
There
make
is-
sure it's recorded.
There is a definition in the zoning text of a carport, which I found after the fact. If you would like, I can read that definition tonight.
Okay, so hold on to it. We may want that read. David Saylor. I'm sorry, Mike, did you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, David Saylor.
Thank you, sir. First thing I'd like to say, and this is to Kate. Kate, anything I say is not out of disrespect for you. I think you were taken advantage of. It should not have been, they should have had to come before the BZA board to start with. And that would have eliminated a lot of problems. They misrepresented to you. It's definitely not a carport, a big oversized barn, garage, whatever you want to call it. There is generally a motorhome in it, plus either a car or a truck most of the time. Now, I'll go a little further. That same property, I think the motorhome belongs to mom and dad. I believe I'm right. And I'm guessing about 3 years or so ago, we approved them a split on the east side of that house for a lot that they never did build a house on, and it was for mom and dad. They bought a motorhome instead. And I think I'm right on that. Anyway, the whole problem is, I think they need a letter stating, and this is just strictly, the only way I could get this discussed is doing it before the board in a public meeting.
Absolutely.
And that's doing it legal. But I think they need a letter stating that due to misrepresentation on their paperwork, that the building does not conform to our requirements, and therefore they need to file an appeal. This is just my thoughts now. I think they need to file an appeal come before the BZA board and ask permission to leave the building as stands or remove it. At least we would have the right to vote on it. And we could, at that time, restrict them from the vehicle parking. It's for a motorhome. If that's what they wanted, that's all they should park there. This is my thoughts. I know I'm a hard line on that. I'm also a hard line on building things in front of the house that's totally contrary to the zoning code. But on the other hand, I'm only one guy, and a lot of times I try to listen to you other guys. That's about all I have. You've got my feelings on it.
Thank you, David. Brad, Brad Warble, do you have any thoughts on this you want to share?
Yeah, I looked at the property too. It's a pole barn without doors, and I believe it's also it's not completely behind the property. It's kind of hard to tell from the road, but I'd like to hear Kate's definition of what a carport is.
Kate, do you have that handy?
Yes.
Could you read that? And I'm just, again, stay close to the microphone.
Okay. Hang on. Section 203-03 in the zoning text states a carport is a roofed shelter open at least two sides, designed as a shelter for automobiles or other vehicles. A carport may be freestanding or may be formed by extension of a roof from the side of a building. A carport shall not be considered a private garage.
Okay.
Brad, did you get all of that?
Yeah, I don't think what they built conforms to that description.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Brad?
No, I agree with David, I think they should be sent a letter. What happens after that, I think, is open for more discussion, but I agree. I think they misrepresented what they were building, and I would consider it a pole barn.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Stack.
I was not familiar with this case because it was before me. It was last year.
Yes.
Just some thoughts. A pole building seems to me as a permanent structure. When you say carport, I think of a non-permanent structure. It's a freestanding thing that is anchored. There's a big difference in the two. And I believe that they kind of push the envelope. They didn't get what they wanted, in my opinion, as they pushed it and kind of went around the barn. And I agree with Mr. Saylor and others. I think there should be a letter sent. They should come and justify what they did. And if there was some discussion about where it was on the lot initially and they didn't put it there, there's another question for them. Why did you not do that? I will go look at it. I'll drive by it and have a look, but I just think that this is something that needs to be addressed further. That's just my take on it.
Okay. So I'd like to, I would like to make a suggestion then. And we can certainly have further discussion, but I would like to make a suggestion to our zoning administrator that based just upon the feedback and the suggestions that we've got, before, and by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with anything I've heard, so that's not where this is coming from, but I do strongly believe that we should do our best job to get with the prosecutor's office to be very clear about what we can do and what we can't do. If it is possible for us to send a letter and demand their appearance before the board, we need to know that that can be backed up and what the consequences would be for ignoring that. I mean, it's a difference between a demand and a request. If I agree, this should have, I agree with you, there was misrepresentation here based upon the facts I've heard. And there's certainly some questionable definitions, as you've all indicated. It really doesn't feel like good faith. My question is, at this point, what can we do about it? And I believe before we do something, we need to be very clear about, we need to get 5 steps ahead. And so we need to know, okay, if we do this, what can they do? What should they do? What should we be doing after that? I'd like to see it go, that to know that we would have some legal recourse because they did not meet the code and clearly they misrepresented, or it appears that they misrepresented based upon the conversation that we've had. They have not shared their perspective with us. So my recommendation at this point is that for our zoning administrator to take this case to our prosecutor. If you want me, I'm happy, or another board member, to meet with the prosecutor to help them understand what we believe to be the circumstances and why we have these questions about what can we do now, because this was not an appeal that came before us.
No, I agree with you.
David? I'm sorry, David Saylor?
I agree. It should go, the zoning administrator should approach the prosecutor and let's get his feedback. And I'll meet with him or anyone else or any of you anytime, but that is total misrepresentation if you read that paperwork.
Yeah, thank you. Kate, you were getting ready to say, I'm sorry.
Yes, I already reached out to Nathaniel, the prosecuting attorney, on this back in February.
Back when? I'm sorry, you're fading in and out.
In February, I reached out to Nathaniel on this property because it was brought to my attention that I screwed it up, basically. So I will forward this email to all of you Monday, and it'll explain what Nathaniel says. Because I'll forward the email and you can all read it and go from there.
Kate, are you talking about forwarding an email that's already been written by him?
Yes.
Okay. So if you would do that, and do you believe that that email, that in terms of what he's already stated, will give us any guidance?
Yes. I believe so.
Okay. So I know that we are not in a position, as David said, we're not in a position to to be having a private conversation about this and discussion with a few of us. This has to be public business. It's a public question, that's for sure. So I would ask that each of the board members take a look at the material, whatever the zoning administrator sends to us. And and please respond back to the zoning administrator. You can copy everybody, that's not an issue. But to respond back as to whether or not you feel that we need to have an upcoming meeting. We on this, especially if it is the only thing on the agenda. I will tell you now, I have no problem with that whatsoever, but I want that voiced so that we can meet in public and have a discussion about this, or if whatever that information is satisfies your understanding of what we may or may not be able to do. I'm happy either way, but it would be helpful to give feedback to the zoning administrator about what your feelings are as to whether or not we should come back together in a BZA meeting to discuss this further, which we will of course do in public. Kate is.
I see no problem with any of that. Is Kate leaving soon?
Yes, next week's my last week.
Yeah, Kate's leaving us.
Where is Miss Karen?
Here.
Right here.
Karen's right here and is listening to everything carefully.
She wasn't introduced, so that left it open for, I might have said something wrong and now I'm going to pay for it. See?
No, David, I did. It was before you came on. I said something. I'm sorry.
Okay. All righty. I'll forgive you.
You can blame that one on me.
No, it's just I'm in a good mood tonight.
Oh, are you? God love
you. Yeah,
you.
You should see me when I'm in bed. But
I have.
No. No, really, guys. This is something we got to decide as a board, but we do need to do it in the proper manner.
Yes.
Because, in the past, I have known us to make them move buildings and whatever. One right down the road from the zoning office there. They actually moved, but that was due to the property line. And it was a Morton too, I believe. But anyway, we just need to do it the right way so we don't get ourselves in trouble. We want to be honest with the people. But there's definitely some misrepresentation on this, and we do need to pursue it.
Okay. Mike Brown, any other thoughts you want to share?
No, I totally agree with what everybody's talked about. I'd also meet with the prosecutor if the opportunity arises, so I can understand, what teeth we have in this process. So if we have it in the future, we can, make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. But I agree with everything totally.
Okay. And David Steck, any other thoughts?
Yes, sir. I was thinking, listening, my knowledge is that when a variance is applied for, the surrounding people have to approve it, say, yes, I'm okay with it. And I'm curious, I'll Obviously, somebody agreed to this variance to proceed back when, but
No, David, I apologize for interrupting, but there was no appeal, and there was no appeal for a variance. There was nothing ever came before this board, so there was no variances of any kind approved. This is the first time this has come before the board.
okay, I misunderstood that.
No, that's okay.
Because if people said, yeah, I'm okay with this pole building, and then that all changed and they put up a carport.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And that is not what happened. They never came before this board.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with this. I apologize.
Sure, no, you're fine.
I'm trying to learn.
You're doing great. We're glad to have you.
All righty.
Okay, Brad, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, Kate, this question is to Kate. Kate, do you remember what Nathaniel's email said in general?
Yes.
Could you share with the essence of it and just, again, loudly?
Okay, I sent Nathaniel Article 4 from the zoning text and all the paperwork on file for the carport on steroids. And I explained that originally the property owner was considering a Morton building, but when I advised him it had to be behind the house, he decided on the carport instead because he didn't have room behind the house. Nathaniel said, and I thought because I did something wrong that it had to go in front of the BZA, because if you read Article 4, the way I interpreted it, because I did something wrong, it needed to go in front of the BZA to be appealed. And basically, Nathaniel said the BZA cannot bring its own appeal. There is no legal mechanism to allow the BZA to appeal the permit and then rule and decide on the appeal. That simply isn't allowed. He understands there is an alleged error, the issue of the permit, but how does that allegation get before the BZA? Do you, the zoning inspector, file an appeal alleging you made an error? He said, I might ask a couple of the other township zoning inspectors, Harrison Township or Butler Township, about what they would do in this situation. This may be a question for someone who has the practical experience as opposed to someone who is caught up in the legal considerations. So I did reach out to Harrison Township, and I'm trying to remember. I think they said that they would possibly have them pay the difference between a carport and an accessory building.
You mean in terms of the permit?
Right.
Okay. Did you speak to anyone else?
No. I think I called Butler Township, but I never got a call back. So I made up a little flow chart because we have some options, in my opinion. Option 1 is to let it go due to the inexperience of the zoning administrator. It's a learning experience, and that would cost the township $0. Our option 2 is for the Perry Township zoning administrator to request a variance on the owner's behalf and change it from a carport permit to an accessory building. The cost to the township is $100 for the BZA hearing with 5 BZA members, plus the cost of the legal ad in the newspaper and mailings, plus $60 to change the permit type to an accessory building. Option 3, we can ask the property owner to remove one wall at the township's expense. Cost to the township could be several $1,000s and or possible lawsuit or court action. Then option 4, remove the structure completely at the township's expense. Cost to the township several $1,000s and or possible lawsuit / court action. So again, of course, I'm going for option 1. It's a learning experience and let it go due to the inexperience of the zoning administrator. But
Okay.
like I said earlier, I will forward the email from Nathaniel and on
So-
Monday.
Thank you. Kate, can you tell me, did you share your thoughts with the prosecutor after you did that homework?
No, I did not.
So there has not been additional discussion with Nathaniel, correct?
No, there has not.
Okay. So I'm bringing this up for the board members to mention that there are times when it may be worthwhile, and I'm actually going back to, I believe, Mike's comment, and that is sometimes there's value in us meeting with the prosecutor just to learn what is possible, what isn't possible, what is practical, and what they're willing to support. And so one thing I would suggest is look at the material that is sent, and then we should also be able to respond back to the zoning administrator as to 1, whether we believe we'd like to have another meeting, 2, whether or not we would like to make sure that the prosecutor is there and available to that meeting. I'd like to just real quick go if any of the others of you have any thoughts. Mr. Brown?
I'm sorry. I agree with you totally, Michael. I
Okay.
totally agree with you.
All right.
Yeah, but I would certainly want to participate in that meeting.
Absolutely. I'd want you there. Anything else, Mike?
No, sir. I'm satisfied with everything we've discussed.
Okay. Mr. Saylor, any other additional thoughts?
No, it sounds fine. I'm all for it.
All right. Mr. Steck, any additional thoughts?
No, sir, and I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Mr. Warble. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if it's got 3 sides, it's no longer a carport. So I think that needs to be brought up with the prosecutor, and I would like to meet with him also as a group.
Okay. All right. So then I would ask on this, if you'll note in the minutes that the zoning administrator will share the communication from our prosecutor with all of the BZA members, and all of the BZA members, after reviewing that material, will communicate back with the zoning administrator with either a request for a public meeting, a request for a public meeting with the prosecutor, and any other requests that they've got regarding additional movement on this particular issue. And once the zoning administrator has a sense of the board, then we would then expect that you would call a meeting either at next month, or you can give me a call as far as schedule goes, but next month at our traditional time, whether by Zoom or in person. I assume we'll still be on Zoom, or if we are to wait until there's a different date based upon a prosecutor's schedule. Is that clear enough, Kate and Karen? Or did I just muddy it up so much it doesn't make any sense?
I think I got it.
Okay. I trust you
won't be
probably do.
here.
Okay. If there is nothing else for the public portion of this meeting, then I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public portion of this meeting so we can get to some other business. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that
Other
motion,
business.
Mike Brown.
I've got a motion by Mr. Brown to close the public portion of the meeting. Is there a second?
Warble seconds.
And Mr. Warble seconds. Without objection, so ordered. So let's, I believe we have the minutes from believe we have the
March.
minutes from March the 20th. Have those minutes been received by all board members? I assume they have.
I've
Brown
got
is a
minutes.
yes.
March 5th.
Yep.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
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 If that's the case, unless there's a specific request otherwise, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll
Yes.
motion it, Mike Brown.
Been moved by Mr. Brown. Was that Mr. Saylor seconding?
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded without objection, so ordered. Okay. Let me see here. We've got other announcements and public comments. So we do have, I'm looking at the notes here. We have our new board member, David Steck. We're glad you're with us, David.
Thank you.
It appears that we have a second, Kate, help me with this. We have a second alternate member, which is going to be Dale Seam. Is that correct?
That's correct, Dale Sims.
Okay, so we will have both Ms. Simon and Mr. Seam as alternates. Is that correct?
Yes, Sherry's the first alternate, Dale Sims the second alternate.
That's wonderful. We're going to always have a quorum. I'm happy. All right. Kate, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with us this evening?
It's been real the last 2 years, so I appreciate everyone's help, and I don't know, maybe our paths will cross again.
Well, I will say for myself, and I think I may speak for all of us to say thank you so much. You have worked with us in such a diligent way, and always made clear to each and every one of us that your intentions have always been to do the very best to serve this board and to serve the residents of the township. It is sincerely appreciated. And personally, I've got to say, you've been a delight to work with. I've enjoyed it very much. And I hope wherever you're doing next, you just have a great time. But big thank you to you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anything else, Kate?
No. Karen, do you have anything?
No, I just have big shoes to fill.
Well, Karen, we're looking forward to working with you, sincerely.
Thank you. I'm working for
Absolutely. There's a lot of good experience on this board. And believe me, you can get a lot of learning from these board members.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we're glad you're here. Welcome. Any final thoughts, Mr. Brown?
No, sir. Just thank you, Kate. I appreciate everything.
You're
Any
welcome.
final thoughts, Mr. Saylor?
No, no, I just wish the very best for Kate. No hard feelings on this part. She knows what I'm referring to. But also to Karen, I wish you the best. I hope you can learn this all over by next week, because no telling what will happen. But
Mr. Steck, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to share?
No, I think this is going to work from my vantage point. I hope I can help you all out. Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. We're glad you're here. Mr. Warble, any thoughts before we close out?
Hey, Karen, Karen, don't be afraid to ask questions. We're here to help. And Kate, thanks so much for your service to the township and its people. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Well, before we close out today, I want to definitely say thank you to Jason. Jason, we really appreciate this.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Happy to help.
Well, we're glad you did. Thank you very much for this. If there's nothing else, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Would somebody like to make that motion?
Yes.
The motion's been made by Mr. Saylor. Is there a second?
Brad seconds.
Brad seconds. Mr. Warvel seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
nay. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so very much.
Thanks, Michael. You all take care.
This has been an experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank
Yeah, it
you
went
all. I
very
look
well.
forward to seeing you next time around.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, Kate, go have some fun.
Will do.
All righty. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.